that there is for everyone, and especially an IT company. It's a interesting opportunity that we have, and which is that companies are realizing the importance of IT and digital. And beginning of the lockdown, in the beginning of the COVID, I think most people were scared, including us. And the first week there was pretty much no activity. But post that, people realized that no one can really. This lockdown might go on for a long time. We can't really just sit back and not do anything about it. So it's really time. It's really the obviously we are in a challenging situation, but the question really becomes, how do we use this time to be more productive and do better things. So I think that's really the essence of this situation and this conversation and this presentation. So what I will quickly do is share my screen and take you through the presentation that we have, and run you through the points that I feel we need to discuss today. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we can see the screen.
All right, so I'm going to get started, and if anyone feels that whilst this presentation is going on, you have any queries, feel free to. Otherwise, we'll finish the entire presentation and then we can get into a Q&A sort of a scenario. So essentially, what are we talking about today is the importance of IT or digital for businesses during the COVID or Corona lockdown. So, really the question is, how do businesses survive? How do businesses take the opportunity and use IT and digital as a platform to take their businesses forward? So essentially, what is the challenge? Obviously, the challenge is COVID-19, the coronavirus. The other big challenge is obviously the lockdown. So currently, one second. Right. So currently we're in a lockdown situation, and most businesses is obviously a very challenging situation and something that nobody's really comfortable with, because everyone's really become homebound. And so the lockdown obviously affects any business, because essentially you're used to working on site. Business as we know it is on a halt, and obviously this affects across verticals. So obviously the most hit would be verticals like manufacturing, retail, international trade. Now, manufacturing obviously is all on-site based, so that is a number one industry or a sector that takes a major hit. Second, obviously, is retail. When I talk about retail, obviously we are primarily right now talking about brick and mortar retail, which again really comes to a halt because people are in lockdown and a curfew and can't travel. International trade again, because it's all about using logistics, and currently all logistics globally have come to pretty much a halt unless you're into absolute essential services or pharmaceuticals. Travel, as obviously that was in a way the first hit, and the travel industry has completely come to a halt. Hospitality, construction, logistics, IT services, education, and healthcare are also hit, but those are the three industries or services that can still go on to a certain capacity, because IT and education services is far more easier to conduct remotely rather than some of the others. Healthcare, of course, is really on, but yet very, very limited. So essentially, we have a lot of hospitals also as our clients, and you'll be surprised to know that obviously though hospitals are working, but essentially from a revenue or a business standpoint, a typical hospital today is doing only 10% of revenue what they were doing, because all the other regular cases as well as non-mandatory or non-essential surgeries have come to a halt. So healthcare, though working, is suffering in a very, very huge manner. And of course, the biggest limitation today for every business is the limitation of resources, which primarily are two, which is money and manpower. So of course, currently the flow of money has come really to a halt. So that's a very huge challenge, because obviously in any business money is perpetually rotating, and that any business needs that money is obviously the fuel in our car of business, and money is really stopped in terms of the flow of money. So companies are facing a cash crunch in terms of the monies that they are getting, and that's why they are holding on to the monies they have, because everyone wants to have a lot more cash reserve. and not giving out money. Manpower again becomes a limitation only in terms of manpower can't really move around, can't really come to office. So those really are the main challenges. So this is the current challenge that we are in. Uh, Now, since there is a challenge, what opportunity do we have right now? Currently, there's one most important thing that we have right now, which is time. And now the question really becomes that if that's the challenge, how do we use the opportunity? So currently, because we have time, again, in context to any enterprise, in context to any business, what any business really now needs to do, since we have a situation and it's really not in our control that work goes on in a day on a day-to-day basis. Essentially, we need to use this time. And what do we use this time to? Essentially, to retrospect, evaluate, and plan. So retrospect is really about what you've been doing in your business, what has been the past of your business, what's been the legacy of your business. Evaluate the past as well as the current situation. What really is the current situation of your business? Obviously, every different industry or sector will have a different current scenario, and they need to evaluate that. And based on the retrospection and evaluation of, so retrospection of the past and evaluation of the current scenario, they need to plan for the future. So what essentially you have today, what any company has today, what any owners, managers, CEOs, CTOs, CEOs of companies have today is time, and they need to retrospect, evaluate, and based on that, plan ahead. And like I said in the beginning of the conversation or the presentation, that we need to use this time productively. So that's really what's critical. So essentially, if I may dwell more into retrospection, evaluation, and planning, essentially what we are saying is this is what we need to do, which is audit your company. So auditing your company in terms of where you've been and currently what is the situation. That situation could be from a manpower perspective. That situation could be from your product or service perspective. That audit or introspection could be from your finance perspective. What you need to do definitely is any company needs to utilize this time to do a SWOT analysis. I'm assuming all of you know what a SWOT analysis is. For if someone doesn't necessarily know, so essentially SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So every company has these, and it's a good time to evaluate, because on a regular basis, on a day-to-day basis, when work is growing as usual, you possibly don't have time to do a SWOT analysis. So one is obviously understanding your strengths. So things that your company does well, the qualities that separates you from your competitors, internal resources such as skilled and knowledgeable staff that you might have, tangible assets or intellectual property that you might have. So essentially, what really are your company's strengths today? Then comes to weaknesses. So obviously, what is it that your company lacks? Where is it that your competitors are better than you? Where is it that you have limited resources? And do you have a very clear positioning, or you don't have a very clear positioning? So you need to figure out your weaknesses. Again, based on your strengths and weaknesses, there it's always about opportunities. What are your opportunities? This is a good time to again review that and figure out what your opportunities are. So whether it's markets, that you can cater to, whether it's your competition, whether there is more emerging needs in your products and services, and of course opportunity. The slide over here talks about press and media, but I would say a huge opportunity currently is for you to plan your marketing, to plan your strategy in terms of communication. Your communication strategy is very important, and today you'll have more time than ever to figure out your communication strategy and your positioning for your business. And of course, last but not the least, very important, are your threats. So in terms of what are the emerging competitors, how is regulation changing? So that's very important. Especially if today you're in banking, insurance, the regulations are really changing. Today, if you're into an export or an import regulated business, your regulations again are changing. Is there any kind of negative press that you're getting? What is really your competitor? What really are your customers thinking about you? So you need to do a good SWOT analysis for your business. So that's a very important area that you can do now. Of course, like I said, the past and the existing business scenario. Like I said, the business scenario completely changed. So today, real estate is very different. Education is based on you have out scenario, what are the current market conditions, what are the customers' mindset. So who are you? So like I said, real estate is very challenging because cash flows stopped, and so it's really about the customer mindset. People are not cash rich, and whatever cash they want to hold on to the cash. In case there's any kind of an emergency, you have to understand this demand and supply ratio, or the balance currently, because the balance is really changing. So there were products where there was a lot of demand and supply was less, but currently, for all you know, that the demand has really gone down, but the supply has increased. So that really changes that's basic economics, that really changes the scenario for any company. Of course, like I said, we have to understand the current economic scenario, and based on the current economic scenario, you will need to understand whether your industry is something that can thrive in that economic scenario, or that might have to cut costs, cut corners, cut production, whatever it is, based on the current economic scenario. This is a great time for you to understand the upcoming trends. So you need to study what are the possible upcoming trends. Again, depending on what business you're on. For example, if I give you an example, when you talk about a luxury industry or sector like jewelry, jewelry facing, as an industry, is facing a huge challenge, because currently any non-essential is not on priority for people. So a huge change in trend for jewelry is really getting into fashion jewelry. So fashion jewelry, again, yeah, and it's been seen historically that every time there is a bit of a recession, it's really the fashion jewelry that takes up. So you have to figure out the upcoming trends in your business based on the current scenario, and how can we use the current time to plan a better tomorrow. And of course, given the same, you can study your competition. What is the competition doing, and how is it that you can get an edge? Because also what happens is most businesses are very busy running themselves in a normal situation, but this gives them a bit of a breather. So I would again say that this is a good, you have time in hand, and it's a good time to do this kind of internal audit, internal analysis, doing a SWOT analysis, understanding your competition, markets, changing trends, and sort of re-engineer yourself, realign yourself for your business towards what the future holds. So I think that's really in terms of what's the thing to do. And how do you really do this? A great solution for doing all this is what we call digital transformation. So of course, there are a lot of companies that are obviously using digital in a big way, but at the same time, there are a lot of businesses, and I would say they are from small to medium business enterprises, as well as some large companies who are not necessarily using digital to the best of its capacity, to the best of its utility. And currently, that's really the need of the hour. That how do you do digital transformation to improve your company, to improve your business, to improve your bottom line? Now, when we talk about digital transformation, of course, is a very large or very broad term. Let's get a little more into it. So digital transformation, again, though I'm trying to get into the details, I will still share a disclaimer that this is still a very macro perspective. We don't want to get into too much detail in everything, because then we can have a session which can last a couple of days. So it's still at a very macro level. So digital transformation can broadly be divided into two buckets. One is IT-based solutions, second is digital-based solutions. So IT-based solutions essentially talks about your IT system softwares. Essentially, we're talking about computing. Essentially, we're talking about how can we use IT to really improve our business. So whether it's tools like ERP, CRM, HR and accounting tools, cloud as a technology, especially in the day and age of COVID, is exceptionally important. So I based on the session that I'm doing, I don't know how many of you are well versed with how cloud can really help, but cloud is very, very important technology that every company globally is adapting. And Obviously, in other IT areas, there are websites, there are intranets, there's e-commerce, and there are mobile apps. So all of these are various IT services, solutions, softwares that you can do, which can, when you implement it to your business, it can really help your business in a big way. From a digital perspective, that goes more towards marketing-based activities. We can talk about SEO, which is search engine optimizing, advertising on Google, using social media to promote your company, to promote your brand, to promote your products or services, emailers as a marketing, influencers as a marketing tool. So that's really a broad level division between what are the IT systems and the digital systems that you can use. Excuse me. Uh, Moving on, so the need of the hour for any company today, because we are in a lockdown, because people are not moving around. One is mobility. When I say mobility, I'm talking about your business processes, your business data to be available. So, I will merge the first 2 points, mobility and accessibility. People are spread across, people are working from home, people are no longer in one space under one roof in an office. So mobility of data, accessibility of data is exceptionally crucial. So, to give you an example, in a lot of companies, if they have access to their softwares, to their data, they can still be working. I'm talking about traditional companies. Let's talk about a company like I said, a jewelry company, or if I may say, a fashion company. The point is, if they have access to the data, they can still do their planning, they can still do their designing, they can still do a lot of and again, from a finance standpoint, once you have your data, once you have your tools, once you have your softwares, you can do a lot of accounts planning. So need of the hour is to have that mobility and accessibility. Of course, another need of the hour is collaboration. So essentially, people are spread across. How can you really still collaborate and work? So essentially, everyone in a traditional office environment is used to sitting together, sitting in meeting rooms, talking, discussing, collaborating, discussing ideas and doing that. So collaboration is what is very important. Cost control. Today, for any company, like I said earlier, cash flow is a huge problem, because the monies aren't coming in, you are not giving out money, you're worried about new orders are not coming in, you're worried about the cash flow going forward. People are, unfortunately, delaying salaries, postponing salaries, even firing people. So, factories are shut, offices are shut. So cost is very important. And vigilance. When I talk about vigilance, I'm talking about from a management perspective. A management always likes to keep vigilance over the entire business activity. So the question really is that IT as a solution can give you all of these. You can have mobility, accessibility, collaboration, you can control your costs, and you can keep a complete vision over everything using IT services. So that's essentially what we mean by saying that need of the hour, which is serviced by IT. So essentially, if any company says, okay, what really is the advantage of IT or IT systems and applications? It saves time. So in other words, if there is any process today that you run in your company or your organization in a manual manner, it is definitely and absolutely going to take much longer than if it's IT driven and automated. As well as there's definitely it takes away the concept of human error. So it saves you a lot of time. If your processes are system based, it can be far more quicker. It increases your productivity and efficiency. So again, if any systems are automated, it increases your productivity, provides insight. Insight is very important part of IT. So depending on the systems and the softwares that you're using, it can give you insight in terms of, let me talk about, for example, if it's a company that runs production facilities, they can know or a retail facility, they can know which retail outlets are doing better, which are not doing better, where is better production, where it's better which markets are giving you better demand, which markets are picking up, which markets are slowing down. So that's the kind of insight that softwares and tools can give you. Improved organizational communication. So of course, today there are a lot of the best example is currently what we're doing right now. So we're using Zoom, which is nothing but a cloud technology. And what that does is helps you communicate. So, we are on cloud. We are using a cloud-based software, and obviously organizational communication. Again, I'm not even talking about basic communication like email and WhatsApp and SMS. Obviously, everyone, many companies doing that. But in terms of video conferencing, in terms of collaboration, there's much better organizational communication through IT tools like Zoom, like Skype, and a lot of companies, from a security standpoint, are using proprietary video softwares that are provided by Microsoft, that are provided by Cisco. More efficient daily operations, of course. Once you're able to communicate better, you have better daily operations, better customer experience. So again, today customers need to get in touch with you. Your offices are not open, but really it's using technology. A lot of companies are using technology as a help desk. So essentially people are able to raise tickets, and I'm not even talking about call centers, because call centers is always a very large investment, requires a lot of training, requires a lot of manpower and resources, which currently is a challenge. You don't have that kind of money to invest, and you don't want to train too many people. Call centers can be an expensive exercise. So customer experience is very substantially being improved by chatbots, by WhatsApp bots, by help desk, which is really about raising tickets, and the sales service staff answering them remotely. So customer service, and today customer service is exceptionally important, especially when you look at industry like travel. Today anyone who had travel bookings done is looking for answers, looking for solutions, and they're looking for customer experience. And from what I've seen, what I've experienced personally, and what I've heard from people, customer experience today for travel industry is very, very poor, because even the travel industry is very confused. So customer tools are a big way to give better customer service. Business decision making, frankly, if your IT tools are able to give you better customer feedback, as well as better insights in terms of what your company, your production, your markets, the demand and supply scenario, it helps you make better business decisions. And finally, if you're able to do all of that, it will definitely improve your bottom line and top line. So your revenue, as well as your profits, your top line and your bottom line, are bound to improve if you use IT solutions for your business. In fact, this is something that while I was researching, I found out that according to Google and a KPMG report recently, engagement with digital technologies can help Indian small and medium businesses grow their revenue significantly. So this is a report of KPMG and Google, and this is in context to India and not a global context. And this is mainly for small and medium enterprises, the SMEs. So essentially what they are saying is, engaging with digital technology can definitely help them improve their revenue. The report goes on to add that digital technologies like websites, social media, and e-commerce can give the small medium business enterprises a greater market reach and increases their ability to reach out to the customers, obviously. And digitally engaged small business enterprises have twice the revenue growth trajectory compared to others. So, uh, twice is really huge. 100% growth over your competitor is obviously what any business is looking for. And so again, as per research of Google and KPMG, this is not my uh, conclusion, but a technical report. And I've not studied the entire report, but essentially this is the summary of the report, that digitally engaged small and medium business enterprises have nearly twice the revenue growth trajectory compared to offline. In other words, the companies that are not using digital. So that's I think the proof is in the pudding in terms of using services. Apart from IT, like that, what are the kind of tools that you use? So essentially, if I just get a little more or dive a little more into the detail of it, it's really solutions like ERP, CRM, HR. What really these tools allow you to do is automate the business processes, manage your inventory, manage your sales, manage your team, manage your accounts, manage your leads. So CRM really helps you track your leads, and that funnel is created. So right from getting the lead to closing the lead, customer engagement. So keeping in contact, keeping in touch with your customers, document management. Today, document management is extremely essential, especially with all the people working remotely, and productivity, integrated workflow. So at a very macro level, again, like I said, we can get into a lot of detail, but when you use ERP, when you use CRM, when you use all these tools, these are clearly the advantages that you get in terms of automizing, which is automizing businesses, management, sales teams, so on and so forth. Cloud technology is absolutely paramount now. Cloud technology is absolutely number one now in terms of every enterprise adapting cloud. So what really is cloud? A lot of people understand cloud. A lot of people don't really understand cloud. Everyone hears the term cloud. If I may try and simplify, uh, cloud is essentially moving data from a given physical location into a cloud. What cloud is really a hosting facility, but what that allows you to do is access that data from anywhere in the world. Like I mentioned, even Zoom is a cloud-based facility. Let me give you a great example, or the simplest example that everyone will identify with. Gmail or G Suite is cloud. So G Suite has Hangouts, G Suite has Google Docs. So essentially all of these are cloud based. So what that allows you to do is collaborate, share, and have access to that data across. So as a lot of you may know, a lot of you may not know, every large enterprise today is using cloud technology to run all the systems in cloud, and thereby they have access to all their data at any point in time. So essentially, user tools to access data anywhere, anytime, collaborate. Video calls is an example of cloud. So essentially, all the data in the cloud is for easy access, reporting, and tracking. So that's as far as the cloud technology is concerned. Again, later we can deep dive more into cloud if you wish. Websites, obviously, today is exceptionally important, and most companies have their website. But the question is, what is the website really serving? You have to understand, again, that changes completely from the kind of business you're in. So there can be, if I may say, two or three kind of websites. One is a brochure website, which, because today you're not available in the office, essentially it's a brochure website which gives information on what the company or the product or the services, and gives your prospect client a good idea what the company is all about and the product services is all about. Then of course there are catalog websites. If you're a very product oriented company, you need to have your entire product catalog online, because today meeting face to face is not easy, and rather not possible. And of course, there are companies that can afford to do e-commerce. It's actually a no-brainer. You should do e-commerce, because even when lockdown is going to be lifted, I think for at least a couple of months, people aren't really going to move out. People are not really going out for shopping, for malls, for movies. People are going to be exceptionally cautious to go into public places, at least for a couple of months. So if you are a product that can be sold via e-commerce, it's a no-brainer that you should be there. Rather interestingly, we've suddenly, within this lockdown period, as an agency, got, I think, 4 to 5 more e-commerce projects. So these are companies that have their brick and mortar stores. These are brands that have their brick and mortar stores in malls, in some of the largest malls in Mumbai, in Delhi. But they realize that, this is the time and this is the opportunity, that they were not doing e-commerce, but they need to start their e-commerce activity right away if they want to pick up sales. Because what's really going to happen is logistics, which is couriers and deliveries, going to open up really soon. It's partially already open, and it's really going to completely open up really soon. So every store needs to get into e-commerce and take orders online and deliver them. So websites and e-commerce is essentially, and of course, when we talk about chatbots, like I mentioned today, a lot of people have queries. They are coming on your website, they have a lot of questions, they have a lot of queries, and chatbots is something for auto response. So without any human intervention, 70% of your frequently asked questions can definitely be answered by a chatbot. So chatbot has suddenly become an exceptionally important tool for customer service as well as for lead generation. So you need to look at that. Uh, intranet again is very, very important in terms of internal communication. So intranet is really a system of communication purely with internal stakeholders, which are essentially your employees primarily. So intranet can be used, so for any company which is 40, 50 people and more, it's not so easy to just communicate over phone and WhatsApp groups. So essentially an intranet, as long as you're 50 and plus, can help in a big way. And of course, I'm talking about companies which have 250 people, 2,000 people, 10,000 people countrywide. So intranet is where all the employees come together. All the employees get to know what the company is doing, what are the current policies, when the offices are going to start. There are roles and hierarchies defined, so managers can talk to their and delegate work to their subordinates, and reporting can be done on the internet. So internet is exceptionally important today. Like I've written over here, better and quicker communication and coordination with internal stakeholders and teams, easy assignment and delegation of tasks to team, and keeping a visual on team tasks. So that's where internet really comes into play. Again, e-commerce is something that I've already spoken about. One part of e-commerce which I forgot to mention is obviously, if you're a product, you need to sell on your own e-commerce sites, and this is a great time to go on marketplaces like Amazon and Flipkart and many other marketplaces, and make sure your products are on there. So again, you get a much bigger audience, you get a much bigger market, and you start to sell products as soon as possible. As soon as logistics is operational, you can start selling. Another thing, when you do e-commerce today, what you can do as a company or as a brand is start giving better payment terms, because you realize that people are not very cash rich, and even if they are cash rich, they want to hold on to their cash. So I've just given an example here of EMI. So imagine if you're selling air conditioners, and air conditioners, now it's also summer, is almost a necessity. But if people don't have that loose cash of 25,000-30,000 rupees to pay right away for an air conditioning, you can give them an EMI. Someone will be very comfortable paying 2,000 rupees every month for the next 12 months rather than paying you 25,000 rupees upfront. So those are the kind of things that you need to, that's why I said you have to consider the psychology of your customers and clients and work your business based on that. Of course, last but not the least, in the IT domain, mobile apps, it's today really the best way to be connected with your team as well as your customers. So just to let you know, we have clients who run intranets purely on mobile. So everyone obviously today has pretty much a smartphone, and everyone is on the mobile pretty much, every minute that they are awake, they're really on a mobile, or they have their mobile with them. And so as an intranet with your current team, you have your WhatsApp groups as well as intranets on your phone, mobile apps, that. And of course, for your customers, you can have mobile apps. Now, mobile apps can be used in very different ways. So of course, one of them is e-commerce, but that's just one application of a mobile app. Mobile app, you can really keep, even in a B2B environment, you keep your B2B partners aware of what your company is doing, what are the current trends, what are the forthcoming trends, and even for your customers, your top of the mind recall, because with mobile app you can send them in-app notifications. So then every time you want to communicate something, you really sort of can get in touch with them. And today mobile app can be a great tool for lead gen and online orders. So definitely you need to use mobile app. So I think that's about it in terms of the kind of IT tools which can be used, which, like I mentioned, can be ERP, CRM, HR accounts, cloud, websites, internet, e-commerce, mobile apps. Moving on to digital. So first of all, according to Harvard Business Journal, on average, increase in marketing spending during a recession have boosted the financial performance throughout the year following the recession. So this is the study based by Harvard, and what they are saying, I think it's self-explanatory, but what they are saying is during a recession time like today we are kind of a financial recession or a financial slowdown, maybe not a recession. And in what they have studied, and they have said that any company that puts more money in marketing during the recession, definitely the year after the recession, they have much better financial performance. So that's an important thought. And again, a lot of companies are doing this mistake. I know of companies, I know of our own clients who during this time have stopped spending, who during this time are not spending because they are worried that customers are not online or customers are not purchasing because there's a lockdown. But you have to understand, customers may not be purchasing today if your product or service is not an essential, but you still need to be a top of the mind recall. You still need to be in their product consideration. So as soon as the lockdown ends, as soon as things are getting back to normal, essentially they need to start thinking about your products and services and buying. And currently, like, the internet traffic, and when I say currently, I'm literally talking about April 2020, internet traffic has gone up by 50%, and there's a rise in demand in online content. So everyone is really online, everyone is on the internet, and there's a huge rise in the demand of content. So you really need to be on digital to so really in terms of what do you do in digital. So this is a summary of what you can do using digital. First of all, digital or not, you need to plan your marketing and communication strategy, because no matter what business you're in, like I said, you can imagine yourself being in education, being in IT, being in logistics, being in manufacturing, being in retail. Your marketing communication strategy has to change now. It cannot go on the way it was, because mindsets have changed, the economy has changed or is changing. So you have to sort of re-engineer your marketing and communication strategy. So everyone needs to do that. Now, coming more close toward digital, SEO is now suddenly very important. People are online, people are Googling for information. Of course, they always do that, but currently all the more. So SEO is all the more important. You need to make sure that your website is SEO optimized, because maybe I know of a lot of clients, a lot of companies that weren't focusing on SEO. But currently they realize that they need to focus on SEO, because even if not today, but when maybe a month or two down the line, when customers start looking for their products or services, their website needs to be on top on Google. So SEO, you need to get started right now in terms of improving your on-page optimization, all your off-page strategies, and make sure your website within your target audience, within your keywords, starts to come up on top. Another good time it is to do countrywide SEO. So essentially, a lot of companies are realizing that their markets are changing. I'm talking about companies who do international business. Some people realize that, or maybe they were doing business in Europe, but Europe is no longer such a hot market for them. Maybe it's some of the African regions or Asian countries which are becoming hotter markets. So what you also need to do is do country-wise SEO, especially if you're export oriented or international business oriented, and you will once you do better SEO in the markets that you think are going to be your key markets moving forward, that's really going to be help you prepare for getting more leads, getting more inquiries, getting more business from those countries. Coming now to Google Ads. So essentially, what we call AdWords or Google Ads. Interestingly, as most of you must be aware, Google AdWords works on a bid value, and so essentially, and surprisingly, I would say the ads are cheaper now. And the ads are cheaper now because, again, a lot of people are stopping to advertise. So the competition is far lesser. Maybe there is a TV company or a fashion company that is choosing not to advertise on those keywords. And currently, because of that, the bid amount for every keyword pretty much across the board has come down. So it's a great time to place ads. You're going to get a lot more bang for your buck. So Google Ads is a place you should consider. Social media, if you ask me, is a no-brainer. Your customers are online. They're spending more time online than they ever did. So you need to be on social media. You want to talk to your customers. You want to be on top of their mind. At the same time, you want to be sensitive. So social media is something that should be there. Email campaigns, so you can keep doing email campaigns, or you can plan your forthcoming email campaigns. Influencers, so a lot of influencing marketing has changed, and influencers even today are cheaper right now because I'm assuming a lot of their services are not being used. They're not in demand as they would be in a regular season. So you can do influencer marketing at a much cheaper rate right now. And last 2 points are really what we're doing right now, what all of us are doing right now, attending and conducting webinars. So it's a great way and a great time to increase your knowledge. And there's nothing better than reading online, then looking at a lot of webinars, and it really helps us all. I mean, frankly, I'm conducting a webinar, and while I'm conducting it, I really do think, I get to learn, I get to increase my knowledge. So I think webinars are a great way, whether you're attending them, whether you're conducting them, to increase your own knowledge and get better in what you do. And of course, what I will say is when you do all your marketing communication, when you do your AdWords, when you do your social media, when you do anything, you need to communicate in a very sensitive manner. You need to be cognizant of the current mental state of the customers and what they are speaking. So that's very important. Let me give you an example. Today you can't, if you're going to be on social media, you can't just hard sell your product. You can't tell people to just buy your product, especially if it's not a essential product. So I don't know if you know, but Louis Vuitton, which is an international brand, what they did recently is they stopped manufacturing of all their perfumes, and the entire perfume business was manufacturing sanitizers, and that's what they promoted on social media. So essentially, they are still on social media, they're still communicating, but they are communicating in context and the sensitivity of the current scenario. You know, I was just talking to someone the other day, and what I told them is, someone like McDonald's or anyone like them could have had a great marketing opportunity here if they would say, hey, we're going to donate all 10,000 or 1 lakh, meals every day and donate it to people who can't afford it, and that would have been a great marketing plug for them, as well as they would have done good. So essentially, you need to communicate, but you need to be really, really sensitive to what the situation is now. So yes, use these tools, but when you use these tools, be sensitive to the situation, and that will actually benefit your brand in a very big way, rather than have a counterproductive. So that's really in terms of, what are the kind of digital tools and how you should use them. So at the end of it, conclusively, this is really my last slide. Currently, based on the challenge we have, based on the lockdown we have, what you need to do is invest today, and you'll definitely reap the benefits later. So companies shouldn't worry about not investing now. And when I talk about investing, I'm talking about time, I'm talking about thoughts, I'm talking about energy, I'm talking about strategy. Obviously, I'm talking about a bit of money, efforts, resources you need to invest in. Whatever investment you're going to do now as a business is definitely in IT and digital, is definitely going to, reap benefits later. So yeah, that's really about it from me. And yep, thank you.
Thanks, Dhananjay, for a wonderful presentation. Obviously, it's the right time for investing your time, effort. That how we can sum up for the webinar. Now, what we'll do is we'll ask you some of the questions curated by our team. So hope that would be beneficial for all our participants. Now, our first question is, since you mentioned you started the digital agency way back in 1998, where digital was the new phenomenon. Now you have seen the entire agency culture, you have seen the digital industry very closely. My question to you is how digital marketing agency has evolved over a period of time.
Oh, it's completely evolved. It's completely changed. It was nothing like what it was, 20 years ago when I started off. First of all, 20 years ago, I don't think there really was what we call digital. There was IT, but there was no digital that was there. And I'm again talking about 1998. There was no social media. There was no mobile apps. Essentially, a lot of people still use landline, and of course, mobile phone was there, but mobile phone was still a very expensive way of communicating. So social media wasn't even there. Mobile apps were not even there. So essentially, all that we had then was basic IT. And I remember, in 1998 to 2000, when you were even talking about websites, people wouldn't understand why their company even needs a website, because everyone had run their business, and was running their business, and were very, very successful businesses with very little IT. IT back then was being used maybe a little bit in accounting, and bookkeeping, and not really as a tool for business processes, definitely not as a tool as marketing and communication. And like I said, concepts like social media, mobile apps, and e-commerce didn't even exist. So in that sense, it's a complete change. And today, every business understands the importance of IT. Today, when we talked about clients, we don't need to sell ourselves. Earlier we had to sell and tell them what we are selling, explain to them what we are selling, explain to them why it'll benefit them. Today they know that. So today digital has really expanded, and fortunately uh, the clients have also matured, their businesses have matured, and they realize and understand that IT is a no-brainer, that's something that they need, both from IT and business processes as well as a marketing tool.
Great, great. So I think you've been very interesting long journey, and it's been very successful. My second question is related to the same as well, since you mentioned you started your agency a long way back. Uh, I mean, my specific question to you is how you decided to start a digital marketing agency. I mean, that particular era, that was still a new phenomenon. So how, what the thought came into your mind? Ki, nahi, I want to start a digital marketing agency, because there were no specific services, there were no social media, there was no e-commerce, there was no Amazon. I mean, like, just share that thing with participants.
Right. uh, I'm going to give you an honest answer about this, and that honest answer is, ever since I finished my class 10, um, till first of all, my I don't have a very shall I say sparkling education background. I'm only a BCom graduate. So, it's very basic education. But in terms of, ever since I finished my class 10 till I graduated, which was class 15, I had this very keen interest in anything to do with computers. And I wasn't sure, most people who pass class 10 are not really sure what they want to do. But there was only one thing sure, that I wanted to do something in computers. So essentially, I learned software, I learned hardware, I learned assembling machines and computers. And I learned, and when I talk about learning computers, I'm talking about writing code in bits and bytes. So I don't know if anyone even knows what bits and bytes is anymore, but entire computer language is based on bits and bytes. It's basically zeros and ones, and when you write codes in zeros and ones, it makes a code. So that's where I started off doing bits and bytes. And so it's really when I was in my last year in class 15, that's when really people started talking about websites and web designing. And that is something that I started to learn, and I found that very, very exciting. And yeah, as soon as I graduated, I said, what the heck, let's start this. And yeah, so far so good.
Great. So when you started out, you must have started with the team members. Are they still with you? No.
So when I started off alone. So there was
Oh.
no team member. So I was the boss, and I was the sales guy, and I was the and I remember I used to have those old big fat yellow pages. I don't know if people and kids know about the yellow pages now, but there were these big, huge directories, and I used to go by them and call these various companies. And so, number one, it was purely me from my bedroom. Having said that, I do have a couple of employees that have been with me today over 15 years. So, I wouldn't say anyone from right the beginning, because obviously the first couple of months it was just me. Then slowly, steadily, literally, I had one or two more people, and then of course, slowly, steadily, the team grew. But currently, I do have a couple of people who've been with me for the last 15 years or more. So that's very encouraging for me.
Great, great. Very, very, positive signs that your struggling days and now your journey for last, I think, only more than 20 years.
Pretty
My
much.
next question is obviously just you mentioned that you started alone and you were the sales guy. You were basically selling the thing, communicating with the client. My question is how this client acquisition process is transformed over a period of time.
Like I said, earlier it was very, very difficult. So I was a kid back then, and getting meetings was difficult. And when you go to a meeting, imagine you're a kid and you're telling a businessman who's 40 years old, 50 years old, who's run his business successfully, that he needs to go digital, he needs to use websites, and people wouldn't just get it. And so, it was all about that time. The sales and customer acquisition was all about education. and trying to show them that there is a need, or trying to show them that if you today do that, you'll be ahead of your competition. Whereas now, I think education is not what people need. People need solutions. They come to us because we are experts. They know that they need this solution. Where now today the education happens is, how can we really help them? How can IT really help them? What is it that we can do? So their education is still there, but it's no longer an education that they need to do this. So earlier, I think we had to make them realize why they need this. Today they know that they need it, but we need to tell them how we can help them. So I think that's really the big change. And today, being such a large organization, let me tell you how many salespeople we have. In our entire team, we have one salesperson,
Oh,
because today, uh, all our business is coming through word of mouth. People are referring people to us. So, I've done a statistics. Essentially, today we have, I think, over 100 or 200 customer base, and every customer essentially gives us at least two more customers per year, in terms of references. So, I think that's where the big change in acquiring customers. So today, we don't need to sell ourselves. Today, people are coming to us for solutions, and we are giving them the solution, educating them about the solution rather than the need.
great, great. Very interesting. I think word of mouth was still and will be the king of whichever new digital marketing platform or this come, but ultimately word of mouth is something that's gonna remain the key success point. My next
Absolutely.
question, my next question is, since most of the since digital is now booming post COVID as well, that's gonna boom like anything, and most of the participants or I mean would be launching their own agency or would be deciding to start the agency. Since you have seen the industry from the very beginning, my specific question to you is, what are the three big mistakes that most of the digital agency founder should avoid if he's planning to start the agency post COVID-19, as per your experience?
Okay. Number one, uh, that's a mistake I made, and I would say others shouldn't do. I started my own agency without any job experience. So
Okay, the job experience is must.
I think you should, because otherwise, just to give you an idea, before I started the agency, I had not worked one day in my life. I had not. All right.
Mhm.
So I started the agency, so I learned everything at my expense. So it was a very expensive and a very long learning curve. So you might as well join the agency, be there for a couple of years, understand how business is done, understand how the atmosphere is. So I think that's, of course, having said that, I don't regret it. I wouldn't say I regret it, but there is also a risk in doing that. Sometimes you take a job and maybe you get too comfortable. And maybe then you don't want to risk it. Maybe you're getting paid 20,000 or 40,000 or 50,000 a month. And let me tell you, running your own business is exceptionally challenging, because there is no fixed amount that you're going to be earning. Maybe for the first 1 or 2 years, you might not earn anything. Maybe you get some money and you put it in your own business. All right. So there's a comfort in a job that you're not going to, worry about that. So one, I will say, honest at someone's expense. And number two is, at the same time, you run the risk of getting too comfortable and not wanting to take that risk. So you need to still. So that's one. You asked me for three tips, is it?
Yeah,
So
three.
let me think if I have any other tips. Number two tip is, like I said, you might not earn money for a while, so you better have it in you to go day in day out. So you might think that I'm going to start an agency, you might think you have it all figured out, and in 6 months time or 1 year time or 2 months time or 2 years time, you will make a couple of lakhs a month. It doesn't work that way. So it's a very long drawn process. So you need to be really mentally prepared and willing to give it your all. Otherwise, don't. If you just want money and security, you might as well do a job and do a bloody good job. And third thing is a very generic thing. It's almost cliche, but it's, most cliches are cliche for a reason. You have to be exceptionally sincere and hardworking. there is no substitute for hard working. Everyone has their destiny, everyone has their kismat, there is God's will, but without hard work you're going to get nowhere, not in a job, not in a business, and definitely not in a business. Maybe in a job with a little less hard work you might still accomplish, but as a company, as an agency, there is absolutely uh, no substitute to hard work.
Great. I think this would be not a mistake, but I think this would be a golden tips for all the people who are thinking of launching their digital startups. And I think, as correctly mentioned, the patience is the key, and the experience, which is very important to launch a digital agency. With the kind of the competition that has grew over the past couple of years, I think these are the golden tips that you can take from Dhananjay. My next question is, since you are providing all digital services across the client, my question is to you, whether the trend has changed with the sector focused agency, like catering to only one sector, whether it's the hotel segment or education sector, or let's say food sector. Is that is evolving, or a uniform approach? Is it more feasible for agency? What's your take for the same?
Both work, to be honest, both work. So if you want to choose a niche and really be at it and be a real expert at it, there are pros and cons to everything. If you focus on a niche, obviously your market is really small, but at the same time you might, if you're really 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 good at it, if you really understand that particular industry, then yeah, you might become king at it and you might be considered, so honestly I don't have a clear yes or no answer in this, because both business models work. But if you're going to choose a particular sector, then you better be absolutely ace at it, that no one else can touch you in that. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult.
Great, great. My next question is a bit interesting. Since you are working with n number of clients, you might be having a daily interactions. Any two memorable or funny experiences with your client that you'd like to share?
Uh, I don't know many, but I can tell you of one, without obviously naming any client, because I'm talking about
Yeah,
a
obviously.
very large company and an owner of an exceptionally exceptionally large company, and exceptionally large. Like everyone in India would know about them. So I met the owner, and we were working as an agency. We were working on their communication strategy on their website, and obviously, there's the super boss. So for example, if there would be a Reliance, Mukesh Ambani is the super boss. Okay, so obviously, I'm not talking about Reliance, but I'm just giving you an example. So we were working with this company's team, and we did a lot of work. Everything almost was finished and came to an end. And finally, so we were working with their chief marketing officer and everyone senior in their company, and we were all in sync and every work was done. And then on the final day, I mean a couple of days before the launch, we had the meeting with the super boss in their head office in the conference room. And soon, once the meeting started, I realized that his knowledge of IT is very very limited. And rightly so. They are not from an IT domain. They are very huge. They do great business, but his knowledge of IT was very limited. But essentially, all the work that we had done, including his team and our team, he just threw it out of the window. He said, it's all bullshit and it doesn't make any sense. And what I realized is, everyone else, to be honest, including me, we couldn't really argue with him, because he is at that stature. And, at the end of it, the client is king and the client is always right. So what I realize is, yeah, sometimes, people don't necessarily have the knowledge, but then they are in that position, they are in that. And, so all of us obviously were quiet in that meeting. And when we all came out, unfortunately, I did the mistake of opening my mouth a little bit, and I was, uh, shall I say, uh, scolded away, for lack of a better word. I was told to politely keep quiet. So once we came out, all of us, his chief marketing officer, his CEO, all of us were looking at each other's faces that, we did the best. And so yeah, that was just an interesting incident which put 6 months of our effort in pure waste, actually.
Yeah, I think this might be the very common scenario because digital and IT is very new field for most of the people. And when you're going for a meeting, acquiring a new client obviously wants to portray that he has at least some invisible knowledge that most of the people in the board meeting doesn't have. So I think what would be the solution for the same? I think this is your case that you mentioned. I think most of the people they're approaching the new client for the digital marketing. Some might be having a very limited knowledge on how the social media promotion works, how the WhatsApp promotion, how the Google Ads website application. What can be the solution? Like, let's say if any client actually this is how it should be done. So, how the situation should be tackled?
See, most of the clients, to be honest, open to listening as long as you don't completely hurt their ego. You can't tell a client, listen, you don't know, I know, so shut up. You can't say that, obviously, right? But okay, so there are three kinds of clients, all right? One who really know their shit, they know what they're talking about. Then it's a very healthy exchange. Obviously, you might know something, I might know something, still we might have different views. So it's a very healthy exchange. Second is people who have, and that's also in a way the most dangerous, who have limited knowledge, because as they say, half knowledge can be very dangerous. So they think they know it all, but they don't know it all. So over there, of course, unless even the case that I mentioned is very, very rare, because even the people who have half knowledge, as long as, like I said, you don't hurt their ego, they're willing to listen to you. So you have to talk and tell them that there are better ways of doing things, or better ways that things can be achieved. And then there are clients who don't know anything. Now, among the clients who don't know anything, I've seen both kind of clients. One who don't know anything but pretend to know. That's dangerous. You can't do anything about that. All right. If they're not willing to listen, you can't do anything about that. And then there are people who don't know anything and say, I don't know anything. We've had actually clients who say, hey, listen, we know our business. Let's say I'm in real estate. I know my business much better than anyone. I don't know digital. You tell me. You're the expert. You come on board. Come and tell me. Come and tell our company, make a digital blueprint for us. So that's really how it is. So you need to essentially manage it in a sensitive way, in a way that you don't hurt anyone's ego, and you should be able to do good. Very rarely will you come across some people who are just not willing to listen, like I was talking about.
I think patience here is also the key, and how you
Yeah,
listen to
you
it.
have to be very patient.
Very, and that particular moment of time when you are sitting into the boardroom and suddenly you think someone is basically having the knowledge, which is half knowledge, then I think it is very important to stay back, and I think that is key. My next question is, since how since you might be having not only the Indian clients, assume the foreign clients as well. What do you find you're comfortable in easy working with the Indian clients and foreign clients? What your analysis for the same?
Both can be easy and both can be very difficult. So the only difference, major difference in Indian and international clients is uh, the eye for detail. When you work with international clients, the eye for detail is very, very, very high. They're very particular about everything. So your scope of work document, to your deliverables, to your timelines, to what is delivered, the quality of work that is delivered, they are exceptionally anal about it. They're exceptionally careful about it. International clients, they will have lesser attention for detail. They can be more forgiving when it comes to timelines, in terms of quality of work. So, having said that, any client, depends from client to client, can be far more difficult or far more easy. But international clients are far more particular, that what is committed is delivered on time, as per quality, as per what has been promised. So they are far more critical and far more particular about that, whereas Indian clients can be a little more forgiving in that sense. But at the same time, I mean, uh, you can have all kinds of clients anywhere, India and international.
But Dhananjay, just the quick feedback. I think there is a network bandwidth which is showing low at your end. Can you just check?
Uh, Seems to be working okay. Can you see me now properly? Can you hear me properly? Can you see and
Yeah,
hear
we
me?
can.
Is
Yeah,
there
I can see you, hear you, but it's showing here is network bandwidth is low.
okay?
ठीक है, we'll manage
Um,
that. Not an issue. Not an issue. My next question is, since you are running the agency since last 20 years, how that has changed you as a person?
uh, it has. I think it has made me more disciplined.
Okay.
So I'll try and give you a let me so I think, yeah, definitely, it's really about responsibility, right? As you need to get more responsible, also as the company grows, you're more responsible towards your clients, towards your employees, towards everything. So as you get more responsible, I think it gets you more disciplined, because you can't not be disciplined and still be responsible. So unfortunately or fortunately, that goes hand in hand. So I think, yeah, it just made me far more disciplined than I ever was. And I'm trying to think of maybe it must have had some negative impact on me. So I'm trying to think. Let me not say only positive things about me. Discipline, I think I've become more patient also, because put up with so much bullshit that you have to be patient.
Especially after that
And
boardroom
at
meeting.
times, actually, yeah, no, but at the same time, sometimes it's also uh, I think sometimes in some ways it also makes you a little more impatient. You want results, you want your team to work faster, you want your please, as a owner of the agency, obviously I work as hard as I can, and you expect the same from your team, and everyone might not do that. So in that sense you get impatient and you're more pushy, more aggressive towards your business. So yeah, I would say from positive, it's made me more disciplined and in some ways more patient. Also in some ways it's made me a little bit more aggressive, because if you're trying to run a show, you need to be aggressive. You can't take it easy. You can't sit back. You can't relax and still manage everyone and still manage all your clients. Yeah.
Great, great. So obviously, as a founder, and in that position as itself teaches you so many qualities that you need to adapt, and that changes you as a person as well. Now we'll take up the participants' questions. So we have got a couple of questions from the participant, because since this particular session is live on YouTube, most of the people are watching on YouTube. Some are here as well, and after getting the questions, here are some of the questions I'd like to ask. First is Rohan has asked how digital marketing manpower resources requirements are met at your agency. Is it easy? Is it difficult? Is it easy or difficult? How is it?
Manpower requirements?
Yeah, like especially if you talk about the digital marketing professionals.
Hmm. Uh, it's honestly, it is always challenging. And what is challenging is not finding the people, but finding the right person with the right quality at the right price. You
Perfect.
can get a lot of people, but the salaries might not make sense, or you might get a lot of people, but they are not skilled enough. So you need to have right person, right skill at the right salary. Because if you don't do that, one of the ways of, let me tell you, surviving a business is cost control. Money saved is money earned. you know so yeah so it is always challenging, and I think it'll continue to be that way. Today, if I'm looking for anyone, I'll get a lot of resumes, but they might not be rightly skilled or demanding the right salary. So that is the challenge, but then that's how you deal with it. What has mainly changed though is we don't use so much of recruitment agencies or even so much of Naukris and monsters as we used to. I think it's far more of LinkedIn today for hiring.
Exactly, exactly.
Anything else?
Yeah, the next question is by Ankit. So he's asking, sir, any game changer tips for me who is planning to launch a digital agency and get my first client?
Any
Any
game
game
changer?
changer tips for me? I'm planning to launch a digital agency post COVID-19 and how to get my first client?
No game changer tip, honestly, but what I can say is once you get your client, service them exceptionally well. Don't think about how much money you're going to make, but service them exceptionally well so they stick to you and they give you references, and that's how you're going to build your business. So in the long run, sincerity to your work is very important. If you're going to do a sincere job, your clients are going to be your ambassadors. They are really going to be talking about you more than you will need to. So actually the game changer tip can be, once you get a client or two, is how well you service them, because that changes your game generally.
Excellent, excellent. So I think winning the loyalty of your existing customer is very much important, and that will
Yeah,
give you the more
because
clients.
like you mentioned, then they are the
Brand
uh,
advocates.
word of mouth, right? They are the ambassadors for your business. Imagine if
Exactly,
people are talking about you rather than you talking about yourself. Nothing better.
exactly. The next question is, sir, which are the digital services are high in demand during the COVID lockdown?
Just give me a second. Just give me a second.
Yeah, sure,
Sorry.
sure.
Sorry. You were saying?
So which are the digital services which are high in demand during the COVID lockdown?
E-commerce, and for people who understand social media marketing. I have clients who stop social media marketing, you know, because they think that things are not moving. So let's stop spending money. Let's stop doing SEO. But, I would say building websites, having e-commerce, having SEO, social media. Having said that, there are companies and clients who are stopping their activities on SEO and social media, which I think is a huge mistake.
Great. So I think we have done with all the questions from our team as well, from the participants as well. From the entire Digital Gurukul family, we are absolutely honored to have you for our
Not at
Digital
all.
Masterclass series. And one last question: what's your thought for the Digital Masterclass series launched by Digital Gurukul?
Sorry, what's mine?
What's your take on the Digital Masterclass series launched by Digital Gurukul?
I think it's great. If you realize in my slide, one of the things was is to conduct and
Webinars.
participate in us. So this is really the time you have in hand to increase your knowledge and to increase your learning. So I think it's really, you're doing exactly one of the points that I mentioned. This is the time to do that. Everyone is sitting at home, but the question is, how do we utilize the time productively? How do we sort of not get lazy about things? So that's I think it's a great initiative, and I congratulate you on doing that.
Thank you so much, Dhananjay. So it was absolute pleasure having you for the webinar, and I hope all the participants just loved the session the way we are. And I'm just request you all the participants to just take a picture of the screen that you can see, and you can share the feedback with Mr. Dhananjay. He's there on LinkedIn, he's there on Twitter, all social platform. So you can share the feedback whether you liked the session, what are the segments that you liked.
Sure.
And what are the
And if
learnings that you
there are
got?
things that I can improve on, please, I'll be happy to have any kind of constructive criticism. Not a problem at all.
Yeah, sure. So Mr. Dhananjay would always be available. So if you have any doubts and queries or something, if you're planning to launch, he's always available on digital platform. So I
Yes.
hope,
On LinkedIn, that's the best way to connect with me.
sure, sure. So I hope that session was very productive as usual with our previous webinar. And Dhananjay, thank you so much for having. It
Thank
was
you, guys.
wonderful having you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, all of you. Take care. Be safe, and hope to
Yeah,
speak soon. Bye bye.
yeah, sure. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Dhananjay. Bye.